Three, two, one. Hello, YouTube Otaku here. We're gonna be getting back into it with "The Moon Is Down" by John Steinbeck. If you've been onto this channel before, go ahead and grab your eucalyptus inhalation equipment. If you haven't been onto this channel before, go and check the channel description to get a better idea of what this channel is about before you continue. Without further ado, silence is the indicator. Not too bad. Nothing too special. Famous last words. I am curious though. Just coming from a long line of smokers that survived and was able to pass on, regardless of death or da-da. Do you think they gave any kind of advantages to the genetics of the descendants when it came to smoking? Like, something I've been really noticing lately, and this is just scary to me, is the age rate may be increasing year by year, whatever. Like Chuck Norris just died, R.I.P. Chuck Norris. Even though he had very controversial life, a couple things he did were pretty scummy, and other things he did were iconic. I hopped on too many subjects, but yes, R.I.P. Chuck Norris, and I'm just like, here, smoked a lot of things in my life, gave up a lot of things when it came to smoking that I was so used to seeing in my upbringing that I thought it was normal to consume those things, that like vast majority of the world actually doesn't touch certain products and digest it into their system intentionally the way that I saw many of the surroundings that I assumed was normal. I really did thought that was just like a normal occurrence, and at least good people don't do that, and that I do believe is true. Let's continue. As always, water for hydration checks. These sessions get intense. Yep, because we just got to find out he just got his body bashed, and he's not happy about it. His face was sharp and bitter, and his eyes squinted down like a little dead pig's eyes. I should have come before, Kana, but your lack of cooperation made me hesitant. Lancer said, "You were waiting for a reply to your reports, I remember." "I was waiting for much more than that. You refused me a position of authority. You said I was valueless. You did not realize that I was in this town long before you were. You left the man in his office contrary to my advice," Lancer said. "Without him, without him here, we might have had more disorder than we have. That is a matter of opinion, Corell said. This man is a leader of a rebellious people. Nonsense, said Lancer. He is just a simple man. With his good hand, Corell took a black notebook from his right pocket and opened it with his fingers. You forgot, Colonel, that I have my sources, and I have been here a long time before you. I have to report to you that Mayor Ordine has been in constant contact with every happening in this community. On the night when Lieutenant Tonda was murdered, he was in the house where the murder was committed, where the girl escaped to the hills. She stayed with one of his relatives. I traced her down, but she was gone. Whenever men have escaped, Ordine has known about it and has helped them. I even strongly suspect that he is someone in the picture of these little parachutes. Lancer said eagerly, But you can't prove it. No, said Corell. I can't prove it. The first thing I know, the last I only suspect. Perhaps now you will be willing to listen to me, Lancer said quietly. What do you suggest? These suggestions, Colonel, are a little stronger than suggestions. Ordine must now be a hostage, and his life be dependent on the peacefulness of this community. His life must depend on the lighting of one single fuse or one single stick of dynamite. He reached into his pocket again and brought out a little folding book, and he flipped it open and laid it in front of the Colonel. This was the answer to my report from headquarters. You will notice it gives me certain authority. Lancer looked at the little book and spoke quietly. You really did go over my head, didn't you? He looked up at Corell with frank dislike in his eyes. It's because I've been talking so long. Screw it. I heard you had been injured. How did it happen? Corell said, On the night when your lieutenant was murdered, I was waylaid. The patrol saved me. Some of the townsmen escaped in my boat that night. Now, Colonel, must I express more strongly that I am Mayor Ordine must be held hostage? Lancer said, He is here. He hasn't escaped. How can we hold him more hostage than that? Suddenly, in the distance, there was a sound of an explosion, and both men looked around in the direction from which it came. Corell said, There it is. Oh wait, Corell said this. There it is, Colonel. You know perfectly well that this experiment succeeds that there will be dynamite in every invaded country. Lancer repeated quietly, What do you suggest? Just what I have said. Ordine must be held rebellion. And if they rebel and shoot Ordine? Oh, that's a good question. Then the little doctor's next. Dr. Winters. Although he holds no position, his next authority is in the town. He's next of authority in this town. But he holds no office, said Lancer. He is the confidence of the people. And when we shoot him, what then? Then we have authority. Then rebellions will be broken. When we have killed the leaders, the rebellions will be broken. Lancer asked quizzically, quizzically. Yeah, they really hit me with that. Do you really think so? It must be so, sir. Oh, I fucking hate Carell. I wish somebody would just put his ass down already. Lancer shook his head slowly and then he called, "Sentry!" The door opened and soldiers appeared at the doorway. "Sergeant," said Lancer, "I have placed Mayor Ordine under arrest. I have placed Dr. Winters under arrest. You will see to it that Ordine is guarded and you will bring Winters here immediately." The sentry said, "Yes, sir." Lancer looked up at Carell and said, I hope you know what you're doing. I hope you know what you're doing, Lancer repeated himself. I'm going to repeat that again, but only because I want it to be like as dramatic as the scene is asking. Lancer looked up at Carell and said, I hope I could never be an actor. I could never be an actor. Alright, let's try this again. Lancer looked up at Carell and said, I hope you know what you're doing. I do hope you know what you're doing. Lancer repeated. Chapter 8, page 103. In the little town, the news ran quickly. It was communications by whisper in doorways, by quick, meaningful looks. The mayor's been arrested. And through the town, a little quiet jubilance ran, a fierce little jubilance. The people talked quietly together and went apart, and people going in to buy food leaned close to the clerk for a moment, and a word passed between them. The people went into the country, into the woods, searching for dynamite, and the children played in the snow, found the dynamite. And by now, even the children had their instructions. They opened the package and ate the chocolate. And then they buried the dynamite in the snow and told their parents where it was. Far out of the country, a man picked up a tube and read the instructions and said to himself, I wonder if this works. He stood the tube up in the snow and lighted the fuse. He ran back from it and counted. But this content was fast. It was 68 before the dynamite exploded. He said, It does work. And he went hurriedly about looking for more tubes. Almost as though at a signal, the people went into their houses and the doors were closed. The streets were quiet. Yeah, I was curious. About what did the townspeople think whenever they found this? When they found these dynamites, they were like, and I was thinking, I'm like, it goes just a little too over the head about how the people actually interacted with the dynamite that came in. It's good that Chapter 8's covering even a little bit of this. Quite nice. Hi, Father. Oh, in the middle of the morning, you want to be nice enough not to say anything or do anything. There it is. There it is. At least it passed by my house and didn't do anything. I recognize. I see you. Chapter 8. He's tested the bombs. Almost as though at a signal, the people went into their houses and the doors were closed. The streets were quiet again. At the mines, the soldiers carefully searched every miner who went into the shaft, searched and researched, and the soldiers were nervous and rough and they spoke harshly to the miners. The miners looked coldly at them, and behind their eyes was a little fierce jubilance. In the drawing room, in the place of the mayor, the table had been cleaned up, and the mayor stood guard at Mayor Ordine's bedroom door. Annie was on her knees in front of the coal grid. No, they got fucking Annie! Putting little pieces of coal on the fire. Well, they still have her. She's not free yet. She looked up at the sentry standing in front of Mayor Ordine's door and said truculently, "Well, what are you going to do to him?" And the soldiers did not answer. The outside door opened and another soldier came in, holding Dr. Winter by the arm. He closed the door behind Dr. Winter and stood against the door inside the room. Dr. Winter said, "Hello, Annie. How's His Excellency?" Question mark. And Annie pointed to the bedroom and said, "He's in there." "He isn't ill?" Dr. Winter said. "No, he doesn't seem to be," said Annie. "I'll see if I can get him to tell you you're here." She went to the sentry and spoke impertinently. "Tell His Excellency that Dr. Winters is here. Do you hear me? Question mark. The sentries did not answer and did not move. But behind him, the door opened and Mayor Ordine stood at the doorway. He ignored the sentry and brushed past him and stepped into the room. For a moment, the sentry considered taking him back, and then he returned to his place behind the door. What the fuck? So he didn't even fucking stop Mayor Ordine from stepping out? He's probably thinking, it's like, well, not really much he could do. We kind of have him, like, basically, like, falsely imprisoned. Because it's not like Mayor Ordine in particularly has done anything. Because we know he wasn't the one that killed the fucking... It's not like he sat there, it's like, you kill that bastard. And Molly's just a fucking... Like, you know how it goes. It's fucking... That's ride or die shit right there. That is really ride or die shit right there. She got her revenge. They killed her husband. She killed one of them. Don't tell me that's not how the world works. Or how it should. I've spoken about it before. Occupation and morality. It's like that freaking weighing scale. I like being amongst the 20% of people. 20% of people that are trying to put effort towards being ahead. I found it difficult throughout the years without proper guidance. That kind of mindset, it becomes more difficult to find the opportunity to be amongst that without proper guidance. Like I witnessed it. I've been a part of it. The excellency of the 20-80% rule of being the reliable 20% of doing 50% of the work, whatever that may be. And it's a little harder to find it to myself, though I have put myself in my opinion, a pretty decent surrounding where the 20% of me is a part with me. And I continue to just reflect the diligence of that 20%er. I really hope I can apply that to better things in my life to come. I deleted like an hour's worth of content, so I should still have plenty of time. I'm fucking chimney today. Fatty nugget. Just gonna save this. Baked out of my mind. For a moment, the sentry considered taking him back, and then he returned to his place beside the door. Ordine said, "Thank you, Andy. Don't you go far away, will you? I might need you." Andy said, "No, sir, I won't. Is Madam all right? Question mark. She's doing her hair. You want to see her, Annie? Question mark. Yes, sir, said Annie, and she brushed past the sentry, too. She went to the bedroom and shut the door. Ordine said, "Is there something you want, Doctor?" Winters grinned sardonyiously and pointed over his shoulder to his guard. "Well, I guess I'm under arrest. My friends here brought me." Ordine said, "I suppose it is bound to come. What will they do now, I wonder?" And the two men looked at each other for a long time, and each one knew what the other was thinking. And then Ordine continued as though he had been talking. "You know, I couldn't stop it if I wanted to." "I know," said Winters, "but they don't know." And he went on as though he had been having a thought. "A timely-minded people," he said, "and the time is nearly up. They think that just because they were only one leader and one head, we were all like that. They know that 10 heads lopped off will destroy them. But we are a free people. We have as many heads as we have people. And in a time of need, leaders pop off amongst us like mushrooms." This is getting rather inspiring. I'm curious to see how it's going to unfold. Ordine put his hand on Winter's shoulder and said, "Thank you. I knew it. But it's good to hear you say it. Little people won't go under, will they? Question mark." And he searched Winter's face anxiously, and the doctors reassured him. "Why not? Why no, they won't. As a matter of fact, they will grow stronger with outside help." The room was silent for a moment. The sentry shifted his position a little, and his rifle clinked on a button. Ordine said, "I could talk to you, Doctor, and I probably won't be able to talk again. There are little shameful things in my mind." He coughed and glanced at the rigid soldier. but the soldier gave no sign of having heard. I have been thinking of my own death. If they follow the usual course, they must kill me, and they must kill you. And when Winters went silent, he said, "Mustn't they?" "Yes, I guess so." Winters walked to one of the gilt chairs, and he was about to sit down. He noticed it was tapestry was torn, and he petted the seat with his fingers as though it would mend it. And he sat down gently because it was torn. And Ordine went on, "You know, I'm afraid. I've been thinking of ways to escape, to get out of it. I've been thinking of running away. I've been thinking of pleading for my life. And it makes me ashamed." Fuck. I think, just like every John Steinbeck movie, the fucking endings. Alright, let's keep it going. And Winter, looking up, said, "But you hadn't done it. But you hadn't done it." "No, I hadn't." "And you won't do it?" Ordine hesitated. "No, I won't. But I have thought of it." And Winter said gently, "How do you know everyone doesn't think of it? Question mark. How do you know I haven't thought of it? Question mark. I wonder why they hadn't arrested you too," Ordine said. "I guess they will. I have to kill you too, now that you're here." "I guess so," said Winter. He rolled his thumbs and watched them tumble over and over. "I know, so." Ordine was silent for a moment, and then he said, "You know, Doctor, I am a little man, and this is a little town, but there must be a spark in little men that can burst into flame. I am afraid. I am terribly afraid, and I thought of all the things I might do to save my own life. And then that went away, and sometimes I feel kind of exuberant." "I feel kind of exultation. As though I were bigger and better than I am. And do you know what I have been thinking, Doctor? Question mark." He smiled, remembering. "Do you remember in school, in the apology? Do you remember Socrates saying, 'Someone will say, and are you not ashamed, Socrates, of a course of life which is likely to bring you an untimely end?' To him, I may fairly answer, 'There you are mistaken. A man who is good for anything ought not to calculate the chance of living or dying. He ought only to consider whether he is doing right or wrong.'" Ordine paused, trying to remember. And Dr. Winters sat tensely forward now, and went on with it. "Acted the part of a good man, or of a bad? I don't think you have it quite right. You never were a good scholar. You were wrong in the denunciations, too." Ordine chuckled. "Do you remember now? Question mark. "Yes," said Winters eagerly. "I remember it well. You've forgotten a line or a word. It was graduation, and you were so excited you forgot to tuck in your shirt tail, and your shirt tail was out. You wondered why they laughed." Ordine smiled to himself, and his hand went secretly behind him and patrolled for a loose shirt tail. "I was Socrates," he said, And I denounced the school board. How I denounced them! Exclamation point. I bellowed them. I could see them growing red. Winter said, they were holding their breaths to keep from laughing. Her shirt tail was all out. Mayor Ordine laughed. How long ago? 40 years ago? Question mark. 46. The sentry by the bedroom door moved quietly over the sentry by the outside door. They spoke softly out of the corners of their mouth like children whispering in school. How long you been on duty? All night. Could not keep my eyes open. Me too. Heard from your wife on the boat yesterday. Yes. She says hello to you. Says she heard you was wounded. She didn't write much. Tell her I'm alright. Sure. When I write. The mayor raised his head and looked at the ceiling and he muttered. I wonder if I can remember. How does it go? And Winters prompted him. And now, old man. And Ordine said softly, and now, old man, who have condemned me. Colonel Lancer came quietly into the room. The sentry stiffened. Hearing the words, the colonel stopped and listened. Ordine looked at the ceiling, lost in trying to remember the old words. Oh, now. O man, who have condemned me. I would feign prophecy to you, for I am about to die, and in the hour of my death, men are gifted with prophetic powers, and I prophesy to you who are my murderers, the immediate after my death. And Winter stood up, saying, Departure? Ordine looked at him. What? And Winter said, the word is departure. After my departure. Not death. You made the same mistake before. You made that mistake 46 years ago. No. It is death. It is death. Ordine looked around and saw Colonel Lancer watching him, and he said, Isn't it death? Colonel Lancer said, Departure. It is immediately after my departure. Dr. Winters insisted. You see, that 2 against 1, departure, is the word. It is the same mistake you made before. Then Ordine looked straight ahead and his eyes went in his memory, seeing nothing outward, and he went on. I prophesy to you, who are my murderers, that immediately after my departure, punishment far heavier than you have inflicted on me will surely await you. Winters nodded encouragingly, and Colonel Lancers nodded, and then seemed to be trying to help him to remember, and Ordine went on. Me, you have killed because you wanted to escape the accuser and not to give an account of your lives. Lieutenant Prackle entered excited, crying, Colonel Lancer! Colonel Lancer said, Shh, and he held out his hand to restrain him. And Ordine went on softly, but that will not be as you suppose, far otherwise. His voice grew stronger. For I say that there will be more accusers of you than there are now. He made a little gesture with his hand, a speech-making gesture. Accusers, whom hitherto I have restrained, and they are younger, they will be more inconsiderate of you, and will be more offended at them. He frowned, trying to remember, and Lieutenant Prackle said, "Colonel Lancer, we found some men with dynamite." And Lancer said, "Hush." Ordine continued, "If you think by killing men you can prevent some from censoring your evil lives, you are mistaken." He frowned and thought he would look at the ceiling, and he smiled embarrassedly, and he said, "That's all I can remember. It has gone away from me." And Dr. Winter said, "It is very good after 46 years, and you weren't very good at 46 years ago either." Lieutenant Prackle broke in. "The men have dynamite, Colonel Lancer." "Did you arrest them?" Question mark. "Yes, sir. Captain Lofton." Lancer said, "Tell Captain Loft to guard them then." He recaptured himself and advanced into the room, and he said, "Ordine, these things must stop." And the mayor smiled helplessly at him. "They cannot stop, sir." Colonel Lancer said harshly, "I arrested you as a hostage for the good behavior of your people. These are my orders, but they won't stop it." Ordine said simply, "You don't understand. When I become a hindrance to the people, they will do without me." Lancer said, "Tell me truly what you think. If the people know you will be shot, if they light another fire, will they do again?" The mayor looked helplessly at Dr. Winter, and then the bedroom door opened and Madame came out, carrying the mayor's chain of office in her hand. She said, "You forgot this." Ordine said, "What?" "Oh, yes." And he stood his head, and Madame slipped the chain of office over his head and said, "Thank you, dear." Madame complained, "You always forget it. You forget it all the time." The mayor looked at the end of the chain he held in his hand, the gold medallion with the insignia of his office carved in it. Lancer pressed him. "What will they do?" "I don't know," said the mayor. "I think they will light the fuse." "Suppose you ask them not to?" Question mark, exclamation point. Winter said, "Colonel, this morning I saw a little boy building a snowman, with 3 grown soldiers watching to see if he did not caricate your leader. He made a pretty good likeness, too, before they destroyed it." Lancer ignored the door. The doctor. "Suppose you ask them not to," he repeated. Lancer seemed half asleep. His eyes were drooped and he tried to think. He said, "I am not a very brave man, sir. I think we will light it anyways." He struggled with his speech. "I hope they will, but if I ask them not to, they will be sorry about it." Madame said, "What is this all about?" "Be quiet for a moment, dear," Mayor said. "But you think they will light it?" Lancer insisted. The mayor spoke proudly. "Yes, they will light it. I have no choice of living or dying, you see, sir. But I do have a choice of how I will do it. If I tell them not to fight, they will be sorry. If I tell them to fight, they will be glad to. And I, who am not a very brave man, who have made them a little braver." He smiled apologetically. "You see, it is an easy thing to do, since the end for me is the same." Lancer said, "If you say yes, we can tell them you said no. We can tell them you begged for your life." And Winters broke in angrily. "They would know. They would know. You do not keep secrets. One of your men got out of hand one night, and he said the flies have conquered the flypaper, and now the whole nation knows his words. They have made a song of it. The flies have conquered the flypaper. You do not keep secrets, Colonel." For the direction of a mine, a whistle tooted shrilly, and a quick gust of wind stiffly dried snow against the windows. Ordine fingered his golden medallion. He said quietly, "You see, sir, nothing can change it. You will be destroyed and driven out." His voice was very soft. The people did not The people do not like to be conquered, sir, and they will not be. Free men cannot start a war, but once it is started, they will fight on to defeat. Herdmen, followers of a leader, cannot do that, and so it is always the herdmen who win battles and the free men who win wars. You will find that is so, sir. Lancer was erect and stiff. What the fuck? My orders are clear. Oh. My orders are clear. 11 o'clock was the deadline. I have taken hostages. If there is violence and hostages, they will be executed. And Dr. Winters said to the colonel, "Will you carry out the orders, knowing they will fail?" Lancer's face was tight. "I will carry out my orders, no matter what they are. But I do think, sir, a proclamation from you might save many lives." Madame broke in, played tentatively. "I wish you would just tell us what all this nonsense is." It is nonsense. It is nonsense, dear. "But they can't arrest the mayor," she explained to him. "Oh, yes, they can. They can do so much more." "Oh, we're at the final page, 112. John Steinbeck's The Moon is Down. Fuck communism." Ordine smiled at her. "No," he smiled. "They can't arrest the mayor. The mayor is an idea conceived by a free man. It will escape arrest." From the distance, there was a sound of an explosion, and the echoes of it rolled in the hills and back again. The whistle of the coal mines tooted a shrill, sharp warning. Ordine stood very tensely for a moment, and then he smiled. A second explosion roared nearer this time, and heavier, and its echoes rolled back from the mountains. Ordine looked at his watch, and then he took his watch and chain and put them in the Dr. Winter's hand. "How did it go about the flies?" he asked. "The flies have conquered the flypaper," Winter said. Ordine called, "Annie?" The bedroom door opened instantly, and the mayor said, "Were you listening?" "Yes, sir," Annie said embarrassingly. And now an explosion roared nearby, and there was a sound of splintering wood and breaking glass, and the door behind the sentries popped open. And Ordine said, "Annie, I want you to stay with Madame as long as she needs you. Don't leave her alone." He put his arm around Madame and kissed her on the forehead, and then he moved slowly towards the door where Lieutenant Prackle stood. In the doorway, he turned back to Dr. Winters. "Credo, I owe you a cock to Aspaladas," he said tenderly. "Will you remember to pay the debt?" Winters closed his eyes for a moment before he answered. "The debt shall be paid." Ordine chuckled then. "I remember that one. I didn't forget that one." He put his hands on Prackle's arm, and the lieutenant flinched away from him, and Winters nodded slowly. "Yes, you remembered. The debt shall be paid." What? I mean, things are popping off. Did I miss something? No? Alright, now that I have context, this is the final bit. And now an explosion roared nearby, and there was a sound of splintering wood and breaking glass. And the door behind the sentries puffed open, so fucking door explodes. Those guys die. I'm sure Lancer, because his ass isn't talking anymore, is donezo. And Ordine said, Annie, I want you to stay with Madame for as long as she needs you. Don't leave her alone. He put his arm around Madame and kissed her on the forehead, and then he moved slowly towards the door where Lieutenant Prackle stood. And the doorway where Lieutenant Prackle stood, so like, that nigga's donezo. In the doorway, he turned back to Dr. Winters. Credo, I owe you a cocktail and asparagus, he said tenderly. We remember to pay the debt. Winters closed his eyes for a moment before he answered. The debt shall be paid. Ordine chuckled then. I remember that one. I didn't forget that one. He put his hand in Prackle's arm, and the lieutenant flinched away from him. And Winters nodded slowly. Yes, you remember. The debt shall be paid. So, like, they just fucking won. They just won that bitch. They have broken themselves out of being conquered. At the very end here, for the best in paperbacks, look for Penguin. Penguin Classics. And that has all the addresses in different countries like the United States, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, India, Netherlands, Germany, Spain, Italy, France, Japan, and South Africa. Interesting times. Well, they liberated themselves. Mali got revenge. The soldiers, one by one, have just all been picked off and killed. The mines are no longer going to be used. The government aided in the people aiding themselves into liberation. And Lancer just, to the bitter end, he was showing like, yeah, there's no hope because I will continue until the last breath to enslave you guys. And so with that, the moon is down. Boom. It's finished because Lancer just got his fucking body blown. So did Lieutenant Prackle. Lieutenant Tonder got killed during sex. Major Hunter, I'm not too sure how his ass went out. Lieutenant Loft, Lieutenant Logger, I apologize. There are a few that are escaping me how they were taken out of this. But regardless, if you were a person who was being enslaved in this point of history and being conquered in such a manner, this is like, yeah, they set up the perfect scenario that when the mayor was about to be killed, they had the plan to bust them out of there, and sure enough, they did, and everything worked out for the most part. The majority of them made it. R.I.P. to Alex. R.I.P. to all the people that probably got killed off in the midst of getting up to this point. Because in some real scenario back in history, I'm sure it was close to just like how it was in here. And that's why people are so grateful to John Steinbeck, because he captured such a perspective that isn't easily conceivable, or at least people thought it wasn't until he did it for the specific people that need it at the time. They asked him, like, how could you possibly have known what we were feeling and thinking? And he said, I can only imagine, and that's what it was. So kudos to him once again for providing such a, like, inspiring and magnificent piece of literature that stretches beyond his lifespan to here. John Steinbeck, you're a true craftsman of your work. When you tell this man to write something, he gonna write something. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, where's the climax? Where's the fucking huzzah? That was a pretty good huzzah. I didn't get it at first because I was kind of speed reading. And you saw me like confused for a second, so I had to reread that last bit and then realize the door puffed. That's such an interesting way to put it. I didn't just say the door exploded open. Would have been, but I'm sure they didn't want to make it such an obvious. So the door puffed open and pew. It was. I'm sure it is like that. Like when a door gets freaking exploded open, I'm sure it does like do some kind of spherical puff before it like finally ruptures into no longer being a door. And those sentries, the poor sentries that were just fucking sleep deprived. But they're free now. They are free. Free as jailbird. I gotta go turn this book into a library. Today. Alright. With that, another John Steinbeck movies, books, everything. I'm gonna check it all out. Probably give my final thoughts onto another video. If I don't, I think you got a pretty good idea by this series of how I think about it. Pretty cool. I like it. I definitely enjoyed the character developments as they went on. But like everything else, it was a good being here, and it's finally ending. Y'all take care. Peace.